Welcome back, guys. I'm MissGhouls, creator of the Ghoulcraft Resource Pack, and this is the fourth video in my CIT tutorial series. In this video, we're going to be learning about how to make animated models. I've made quite a few animated models for my resource pack, and they always get a huge response. They're super fun to look at, and depending on how complex the animation is, it can be really pretty easy to pull off. If you're familiar with stop motion animation, like Coraline or Nightmare Before Christmas, you're already going to understand the basics of animating. For those of you who don't already know, animating is done frame by frame, where you take a picture or an object, move it just a little bit, then you take another picture, move it a little bit more, take another picture, and so forth. Then you compile all of it together in a list or a string, and it just makes it seem like it's moving. In Blockbench, it's pretty much the same thing. But instead of saving items as frames, we're going to be saving them as individual JSON files. For this example, we're going to be using my mimic Chester. Now, Chester the mimic is split into two parts. This is his top lid, this is his bottom half. For the sake of simplicity, I've gone ahead and removed his tongue because that's like a secondary animation part. And we're just going to be working on opening and closing his lid for right now. So whatever you're animating, make sure you have your pivot tool where you need it. This means wherever it's going to be rotating, you want it to rotate on like an axis. So we're going to move the pivot tool back here because we want his lid to open and close right on the hinge. So try and place that as close to the hinge as you can get it. Then hit the rotate tool and test it. Do you notice his lid opens and closes right where we want it to? Now I'm going to save Chester in my CIT folder like I normally would, but this time I'm going to make a new folder inside of it called Chester and save him there as Chester 1. So go ahead and hit export, and we're going to go back to Tutorial Craft, Assets, Minecraft, Optifine. I already have a folder here called Mimic, but I'm going to make a new folder and name it Animation. And then inside that, we're going to name it Chester. That way we can keep all of our animation files together in one place. Inside that, we'll name this one as Chester 1. Okay, now we're going to start animating him. I'm going to grab his lid and use the rotate tool to lift it up by one little notch, just like that. Now you can see all of his teeth. Go back up to File, Export. We're going to save this one as Chester 2. Okay, now we're going to open it up a little bit more. File, Export, Chester 3. And we'll do one more. File, Export, Chester 4. Now we actually don't have to we actually don't have to animate him closing his lid because we've already done it one way. Now we can just reverse it. Once we have all the models we need, we're going to go to the JSON Model Animator website, and I'll put the link in the description. Okay. From here, click on the top left icon and navigate it to your CIT folder. There we go. Grab all of your animation files and hit Open. Now you'll notice it'll say errors down here. For us, we have 6 errors. If you hit the little arrow, it'll tell you what those errors are. In this case, it's just saying it doesn't have the textures. So hit Choose File and go back to our texture folder and grab all the textures that you're going to need. If for some reason your status is still red, you can hit the arrow again. Sometimes it'll give you a really long error saying there's a missing or unknown texture on face such and such. This just means you forgot to texture something in your model, and you'll have to go back and fix it for every single JSON that you just made. So be extra careful about paying attention to what you're doing, or you'll end up like me and redoing over 42 files because you forgot to texture something. Okay, so now we have all of our files sitting up here. In this section, we have 4. You can drag them down here, down below, and this is your timeline. So just drag them in the order that you want them to be animated in. And you'll notice up here in this top right corner is where you can preview it. Just like Blockbench, you can drag it around and zoom in and out, right click to move it, stuff like that. You can hit the button in the bottom left corner to preview what it looks like. Now we have an opening, but then it immediately snaps closed again. So we're going to go ahead and duplicate it and put it backwards. You can also drag them from up here. Okay, now hit play. You'll notice he smoothly opens and closes now, but he's still a little fast. So what you're going to want to do is hit this button here that says duplicate, and duplicate one of every single frame. So it'll say like 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, and so on. Doing this will slow down the animation just a little bit, and you'll notice now he opens a little bit slower. If you want him to open up and keep his mouth open for a longer amount of time before he closes, just add more of number 4 right here. We'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now when we hit play, he opens, holds it, and then closes. You can do this for any frame. So if you want him to keep his mouth closed for longer, you just make the 1, like the number 1 animation, just a little bit longer. Once you're finished, you're going to hit the export button up here where it says model path, we'll name him, lowercase, we'll name him Chester. Texture path, Chester 1. Pack format, change it to a 3 if you are doing Java version. Then hit export. Okay, so now that we've downloaded our zip file, we're going to go ahead and open it. I'm using WinRAR, so I'm just going to open it up like this. And you'll notice it looks very similar to a basic resource pack. So you're going to already know how to navigate it. Click on Assets, Minecraft, Models, and Block, and you'll see our new JSON file. There's just one, so you don't have all those little JSON files. You can get rid of those. Drag it over here, and now you have Chester. But we're not done yet. Go back to the Minecraft folder, well, the Minecraft folder inside your texture pack, and hit Textures. Then go to Block. Open up your zip file again, and go back here where it says Textures. Block. You'll have 2 files. This is going to be chester1.png and chester1.png.mcmeta. Copy both of these into your folder. Now this is what your file is going to be reading. You can go ahead and open this and look if you want. You'll notice it's got a whole bunch of the same texture over and over and over in like a line. This is the animation. The longer your animation is, the longer the screen is going to be. So try and keep in mind you want your animations to be kind of short, because if they're too long, Minecraft can't read it at all. Don't ever change this PNG. Like, don't try and add emissive textures to it. Don't try and, edit anything on there, or it may not be able to read it. Make sure you also have the McMeta folder in here, because if you don't, Minecraft's not going to understand how to read it, and you're going to get all of the animation frames all at once, like stacked on top of each other, and it's going to look terrifying. So don't do that. Okay, now we're going to head back. Where were we? Here we go. Head back to the Optifine CIT folder, and you're going to make a properties file for Chester. So we're up here where it says block. We're going to name it to chest. I believe in my resource pack I made him a trapped chest, but just for now I'm just going to make it a chest. And then where it says pattern, we'll name him Chester. And then his file name is chester.json. So hit File, Save As, Chester.properties, and hit Save. And you're done. Okay, so now we're back in our test world, and we're going to make sure we did Chester correctly. So let's see if we can find a chest. And we'll name it Chester. There we go. I believe I had him set so that he was on the ground. There we go. Sometimes they'll show in backwards. You just got to rotate them around. So there you go. You've made your first animated item. I really hope yours worked out. And the last animation, we had just opened Chester's trunk, but in my full animation, Chester's tongue will loll out before he closes his lid again. So in order to do a more complex animation, you'll just have to move two things simultaneously. This can get a little complicated depending on how many moving parts you have, so I would suggest keeping it extremely minimal. We're going to be using Chester again to show you what I mean. Again, first we're going to start by saving him with his mouth closed. We're going to go back to the Optifine folder, animation, and we'll name this one Chester 2. Chester 1 and save it. Now we're going to move, let's make sure my pivot tool is in the right place. It's not. Make sure you have your pivot tool right on his hinge. Okay, and now we're going to rotate his lid open. Now you can see he has his tongue inside. So we'll hit File, Export, Chester 2. Now, as we open his lid, we're going to make his tongue spit out a little bit. So now you can grab the tongue and move it. I'm not going to worry about his teeth for this animation. I'm just going to show you how to move his tongue. We'll name this one Chester 3. We'll open the lid a little bit more, and we'll move his tongue out a little bit more. This is going to look super janky, but it's just an example. Okay, Chester 4, and I'll move it one more because we can. So he's all the way open now, and his tongue's coming out. Now, normally I would extend this back, but this is just an example. There we go, Chester 5. Okay. Now that we've done that, we'll just head right back over here, hit the middle button here to grab them all, and then just hit exit, and do exactly as you did last time. So it reads 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now double them all, so that it's a little bit slower. 3, 3, 2, 2, and 1, 1. You can see how this is starting to get a little bit big. So there you go. Now his tongue moves and his lid opens. So hit export. We'll name him, Chester 2. Make sure you rename this one as well, or it'll overwrite the last one that we did. We'll save it down here. Okay, just like before, I want you to go back into the file and pull out his JSON file and put it in your CIT folder. Make another example. Make another properties file for him, and we'll name this one chest, and then we'll name it 2 Chester. I'm putting the 2 first because we named our last one Chester. So if we add anything after that, it's still going to think it's reading the first file. So this one's just going to be 2 Chester. And then we'll rename it chester2.json. Save as chester2.properties and save. Don't forget to go back to the textures folder and put your other files in here, or else it won't be able. Okay, so as you can see, I've now loaded them in the game. I did have to make a small adjustment. In the properties file, I had to rename our original Chester to Chester 1. That way when he shows up, he doesn't overwrite the other one. So this is now Chester 1, and this is now Chester 2. But as you can see, we now have the tongue opening and closing, or the lid opening and closing, and the tongue's popping out. So there you go. Try and make sure that you keep your animations small, because the more movements and files you make, the less Minecraft is going to want to render it. I once tried to make the Ouija board for the Mythical update, and I wanted so badly to make the planchette spell out ghouls as like a little Easter egg. But by the time I saved it, I had over 72 frames. Double that in the model animator, and well, the file turned out to be too big for Minecraft to read. So when I loaded it in game, it was just one blob of all the models squished together with no textures. it couldn't read the texture file that was that big. So unfortunately I had to abandon it and make it just a static model. So when you're making your own animations, keep them simple and keep them small. Remember, if you make something you're super proud of, tag me on Tumblr or Twitter with @MissGhouls, or you can post it in our Discord channel to show it off because I would love to see what you guys make. Everyone I've met so far has been so creative, and it makes me incredibly excited to see what everybody makes. So in our next video, we're going to be covering how to do emissive textures, which means we're going to learn how to make things glow when you use your shaders. So I will see you there. Thank you for watching.